All right, let's dive in. We are going to be decoding the world of language proficiency today. You know those mysterious letters and numbers you see everywhere? A1, B2, C1. What do they actually mean?
I mean, you've definitely seen this, right? Maybe on a university application or a job description, it says B2 required, and it feels like some kind of secret code. What does it really take to be a B2?
Well, the first thing you got to get out of your head is that these levels are not like a score on a test. It's not about getting 90% right. It's a completely different way of looking at language.
And that is the core idea. These levels are all about describing your real-world abilities. They answer one simple question. In a real-life situation, what can you actually do with the language?
So where does this whole can-do philosophy come from? Well, it comes from a framework called the CEFR, which stands for the Common European Framework of Reference for Languages. And let me tell you, when it first came out back in 2001, it was a total game changer.
What's so fascinating is just how big of a shift this was. Before the CEFR, a lot of language learning was based on what they call a deficiency model. Focusing on the grammar you haven't learned yet, the words you get wrong. The CEFR just flipped that whole thing on its head. It said, let's focus on proficiency. Let's focus on what you can do. Can you order a coffee? Can you join a work meeting? It's just a way more positive and, honestly, a more useful approach.
And this can-do approach also shakes up how we think about the classic 4 skills. Reading, writing, listening, and speaking. The CEFR organizes them into 4 much more dynamic modes of communication.
First up, you've got reception. This one's pretty straightforward, right? It's anytime you're on the receiving end of language, listening to a podcast, reading an article, or just watching a movie.
Second is production. Exactly the opposite. This is when you're the one creating the language. You're giving a presentation, you're writing an email, you're putting your own thoughts out there. Third, we have interaction. And this one is key. It's not just speaking and listening at the same time. It's about building a conversation with someone else. You're reacting, you're responding, you're creating meaning together. But the fourth mode, honestly, this might be the most interesting and forward-thinking part of the whole framework, mediation. It's a skill we all use, all the time, probably without even thinking about it.
So, what on earth is mediation? Just think of yourself as a language bridge. It's not just about professional translation. It's when you explain a really complicated email to your coworker in simpler terms. Or when you summarize a news article for a friend. Heck, even when you take notes in a meeting to understand it better for yourself later, you're taking information, processing it, and repackaging it to make it accessible. That's mediation.
Now, the CEFR isn't some old, dusty document that's set in stone. The way we communicate is constantly changing, so the framework has to change too. And that's why, in 2018, an updated companion volume came out to bring it into our modern world. I mean, just look at this. This comparison says it all, doesn't it? It shows exactly why that update was so important. Communication back in 2001 meant one thing. Today, it's a totally different world. We live on group chats, online forums, and endless video calls. The framework had to catch up.
And the 2018 update added some really crucial new scales. For the first time, it has descriptors for online conversations. It massively expanded those scales for mediation we just talked about. It added a new focus on how we react to things like art and literature, and in a truly groundbreaking move, it formally brought sign languages into the fold.
Yeah, that last point is so important it really deserves its own moment. The inclusion of sign languages was a huge monumental step forward for making the language world more inclusive. To make this happen, the creators made all the descriptors modality inclusive. So what does that fancy term mean? It just means the can-do statements were carefully rephrased so they work whether a person is speaking, writing, or signing. It's a formal way of saying loud and clear that sign languages are complex, complete, nuanced languages just like any spoken language.
So, after all that, what does this mean for you as someone learning a language? Well, here is the single most powerful takeaway. You are not just a B2. It is so much more interesting than that.
The CEFR shows us that our language ability is actually what's called a spiky profile. Take a look at this example of a fictional student. They might be at a C1, really advanced, when they're reading scientific articles for their major. They're a solid B2 in casual chats with friends, but maybe when it comes to writing a formal lab report, they're more to B1 level. Nobody, and I mean nobody, is a single flat level across every single skill.
And that's the real magic of it, right? The CEFR isn't supposed to put you in a restrictive box. It's a map. It's a tool to help you understand your own personal combination of strengths, showing you where you really shine and where you might want to focus next.
So let's just quickly wrap up the big takeaways. First, the CEFR is a can-do framework, not a system for grading you. Second, it's evolved to fit our modern, digital, collaborative world. Third, it's deeply inclusive, recognizing all language users, including the signing community. And finally, and most importantly, your language ability is your own unique, personal profile of different skills. In the end, you gotta remember the framework isn't a finish line you're supposed to reach. It's a map that helps you navigate your own personal language journey. So that leaves us with a pretty interesting question to think about. What do the peaks and valleys on your own language map look like?